I don't know about you guys, but if my phone is blowing up 30 times a day with the same questions over and over and over again, as a business owner, I'm going to get pretty annoyed pretty fast, right? But again, that's like our members before they come in, that's just the cycle. They've just been on this hamster wheel doing that for years and never figuring out the systems and the processes to implement to give their team the resources they need to be able to do their job without having to ask the boss questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, farmers, ranchers, and distinguished guests, thank you for listening to the Farm for Profit podcast, where we discuss the latest ideas, methods, trends, and techniques available to help your farm achieve higher levels of farm profitability. The Farm for Profit podcast is co-hosted by Tanner Winterhoff, the Iowa Bankerman, and David Whitaker, the Iowa Land Guy, where in tandem they will share their ideas and advice from industry experts. Thank you again for listening to the Farm for Profit podcast. Remember, if you aren't farming for profit, you won't be farming for long. And now, here's Tanner and David.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit podcast. This is Tanner Winterhoff.
And this is David Whitaker.
We're here, Farm for Profit episode. We are going to focus on a monster topic for the day, covering a lot of points, but the next show in your queue is a Farm for Fun show. That's where we pick a person and learn from them. Maybe it's their mistakes, maybe it's what they do really well, but focus on a topic during the profit shows, focus on a person during our fun shows.
And it's a time to drink beer because it's Farm for Fun. But Tanner, we should, for our new listeners, because we have a few, they don't remember who we are and the difference in our voices. So I'm David Whitaker. And I am the farmland guy, and I am an auctioneer and real estate agent is the voice you're hearing now. Tanner, let them know who you are.
Yep, Tanner Winterhoff. I am an ag banker. I am a commercial and ag banker here in central Iowa. So farm kid, grew up that way, and now finance a lot of different farm operations. I do a lot of the writing, a lot of the outlining, a lot of the guests lining up for this, but the perspective from Dave and Corey when you catch them on a fun show is really what drives us forward. We love the suggestions from you so we can get our content lined up. Send that to farm4profitllc@gmail.com or leave it in a review, Dave.
You bet. And this week's listener review is brought to you by our partner, Gearinghoff. They're heads, if you didn't know that. Gearinghoff is heads for your combine. They're head of class no matter the crop. They got that new razor that Corey tested out, said it was phenomenal. They will custom build. Man, they arch. We saw them at the Farm Machinery Show. Yep. I'm telling you what, it's pretty neat. If you're looking to upgrade, check out our partner, Gearinghoff. And what is this week's listener review?
Got another text message, 712 area code. So up there in Northwest Iowa, Matt from Sioux County, Iowa, said, really enjoy the podcast. They are super entertaining and have lots of great information, especially to an 18-year-old like me. Keep up the great work.
Well, you are going to love this episode if you are 18. Stay tuned.
Absolutely. So thanks again. Leave those 515-207-9640. You can call us. You could leave a voicemail. You could send us a text message, but tell us why you listen to Farm for Profit podcast. But there we go, Dave. Enough of an introduction. We got everything covered. Some good business. We are going to make a new friend with today's topic. This is the first time that I've had a Facebook link sent to me from our listeners by more than a dozen of them. So this is something we have to cover. We are going to cover the 5 ways that you could potentially ruin your family farm.
This has got to be like rodeo. Like everybody just really wants to know, watch the guy get trampled on, or like Demolition Derby, like we want him to win, but we're waiting for him to hit the wall. Yeah. Like that's why this is probably one of the most requested. So who do we have?
We have Jace Young, the founder and CEO, as a Western Kansas farm kid and ex-banker. I knew we'd connect. Banker and ex-banker here, turned entrepreneur, focusing on helping American farmers and ranchers build, organize, structured, and profitable operations. The perfect guest, Dave, for the Farm for Profit podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Jace.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me here. I'm looking forward to it.
So that introduction doesn't do what you do justice at all. So tell our listeners a little bit more about what you have going on.
Yeah, so, I started Legacy Farmer in 2019, and what's more important, though, is to understand the story as to why Legacy Farmer exists. So some of the listeners will know me. I grew up on a big farm operation and feed yard in western Kansas. Feed yard held about 14,000 head of cattle. My granddad started that back in the 50s. And, he wanted what everybody else wanted back then, right? To build an operation that the whole family could come back to, right? So my dad grew up on the feed yard. The guy never left. 17 and 15 are when my parents got married, and he literally stayed there his entire life and built that thing. And anyway, so I grew up on the feed yard with all the cattle. And then we also had about 3,000 acres of grounds. And unfortunately, in the summer of 2005, I was a sophomore in high school. The entire thing went bankrupt, went belly up. My granddad lost a lot of money in the markets. That was when we saw volatility start coming in, right? And trading got extremely volatile, and you had to be on your game there. And my granddad just wasn't ready for it. And unfortunately, the feed yard went under, and I was with my parents when they filed bankruptcy, got kicked out of the house. They raised their kids in for 30 years, and pretty brutal experience for them. Probably the biggest blessing I've had in my life, the most eye-opening experience that I've had in my life. And following that, I took the traditional path. I went to college. I became an ag banker after that, spent about 6 years as an ag banker. And then in 2016, I left and turned an entrepreneur and tried to figure out my own path and my own way to help the industry and help people. And I fumbled around for a couple of years. And then at the end of 2018, first part of 2019, we launched Legacy Farmer. And since that time frame, we've brought in more than 300 family farms from across the country, from California clear up to Delaware and everywhere in between. And over that time, we've discovered and talked about a lot of problems. We've learned a lot. It's amazing to me how different ag is across the entire country. It's been really cool for me to be able to experience that. And but the operations are different, problems are the same. Right. So that's what we've kind of discovered there and built our business model around that, around how can we really help people leave behind the legacy and really hold on to this family farm lifestyle and the small town lifestyle that we all grew up with. Right. We want to hold on to those values and everything. So, Legacy Farmer, like I said, we're serving over 300 customers now, and we have a full program that we take all of our members through. The most valuable piece of Legacy Farmer, though, is the community. All right, so tomorrow, which will be every Tuesday, we have what's called a community boardroom call. So it's a live Zoom call where all of our members jump on, and we discuss any topics, issues, challenges, business or personal, that they're dealing with there. And that's just an environment that we've been able to create there that, as you guys know, in small towns doesn't really exist. You can't go to the coffee shop and talk about finances or challenges with any personal challenges or anything like that. So that's what we've tried to create there.
So Tanner, they have a What's Working in Ag
every Tuesday.
So we have a segment called What's Working in Ag. It's the coffee shop talk that you can't have at the coffee shop. That's exactly what we do on Being Profitable, Farm for Profit. You're doing the same thing with your clients. So you got the Big Boys Club that are all Legacy Farmer comrades, and then you guys all hop on a Zoom. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's turned out to be, like I said, like we have our program and we help everybody, get all their numbers organized and go through entity structure and tax planning, bookkeeping, legacy planning, all that stuff. But arguably one of the more valuable pieces is, every Tuesday, our entire boardroom is on there. And this is that one place where our members can come and talk about the stuff that they can't talk about anywhere else, really.
Yeah, zero judgment, a lot of support, a lot of people going through the same type of situation. And I'm sure that's probably where you grabbed the basis for our conversation today. So normally we tell our listeners or show our listeners or describe to our listeners things that they can do to make their farms run better, more profitable, more efficient. But today we're going to have a conversation around the most common 5 pitfalls that farm owners and operators make that might jeopardize the future of their family farm, Dave.
So let's just dive right into this. So we got 5 we're going to cover today, and I'll just go over them quick, and then we'll circle back to each one. So micromanaging, being centralized, zero training, no mission statement or core values, and being selfish. So let's start with number 1. When we talk micromanaging, the first thing I think of is a generational gap. We've talked about this on the podcast before. My dad was a Marine. When he said jump, I said how high. You don't ask why. You don't question. You just do it. So that is the Korean War to the baby boomer generation. Then we hit the next geners and the millennials, and they're like, why? But I think once you tell them why, because we're going to do it this, this, and this. Oh, okay. And then they're on your team. So help me understand what you're seeing with your people in micromanaging, Jace.
So I'll actually use my granddad as an example. The guy passed away in 2015, and like I said, he's the one that started the operation. So he went through dirty 30s and everything. That's what he grew up with. So he started the operation with nothing, and then my dad was manager of our feed yard. So we had a team of about 15 to 16 people out there, and notice how I'm calling them team. Right, not employees. My dad, there's one thing that he used to always make a point in saying, I work with my guys. They don't work for us. They don't work for me. I work with them, right? And so my dad would, and what we see typically with a lot of our members too is the first generation builds it, right? Then there's a problem with that transition to the second generation, because my dad is a perfect example. He would get everybody lined up for the day. Everybody's clear on what they're supposed to do. And then my granddad would come in and steamroll the whole thing. Right. So micromanaging, every decision has to go through them. Now it's interesting because as an entrepreneur, we start building these businesses because we like control. And at the same time, that's the number one thing that's going to keep us from getting what we ultimately want. All right. So when our members come to Legacy Farmer, we always go through a kickoff call and everything, and we ask them what they really want. Everybody wants to be profitable, but they want those profits so that they have the ability to spend time with their family, do what they want to do, be able to provide, the lifestyle and experiences that they want for their family. And in doing that, a lot of them are self-sabotaging themselves because they are so addicted to micromanaging. And it's not that they even know that they're doing it. It's just that they saw their dad do it that way, or they've just been conditioned for decades that you don't let go of anything.
Yeah, that it hits all levels of business, but I almost stopped listening there for a minute when you described how your dad got everybody lined up for the day, tasks. It could have been an effective, efficient working day, and because it wasn't your granddad's idea, it got shot down. So
Correct.
that's why it's such a big deal. But what can we do? What are steps that we can take to not do that?
I love the fact that we're telling everybody what not to do, but now let's tell them, how do we avoid that? So do we just say, hey, Grandpa, shut up, I'm in charge? Or do we say, how do we effectively solve the micromanaging?
Yeah. And so that's where it kind of gets into the rest of what we do inside the business, guys. I'm a visual learner. Right. And so a lot of our members, we go through and really start mapping out their operation. One thing we focus on a lot is their accountability chart, right? What is each person responsible for inside of the entire operation? How are they breaking out each one of these roles and responsibilities? How are they, aligning tasks and everything with each person? And when they can start, when we do that with some of the members, we lay out all these seats of different roles and different things that are happening in the operation. Guess whose name's at the top of every one of those seats? It's typically one guy. And they're like, crap, I can see why I'm burned out. I can see why I'm pissed off a majority of the time and stressed out and can't really focus on anything but work. And so laying out that kind of visual representation and really taking a 10,000 foot view on the operation gives us the ability to start changing that identity a little bit, right? Starting to help them visually see, I'm trying to do the job of about 6 or 7 people right now, and I can see why nothing's getting done the way I want it to. Right. So it's not something that you just turn on a switch. A lot of our members have been in our program for 2 to 3 years. And when you think about the identity of a farmer, in my opinion, it's one of the strongest identities, really in business, because we are so set in our ways and we've been conditioned that way for so many years. When we're coming in and trying to unravel those things, it's going to take time. We have to have the same conversation multiple times with our members. These conversations come up all the time on our community boardrooms because it just takes time to rework those stories and that internal wiring that people have developed over decades.
Tanner, I'm sitting here thinking, so Jace, for your knowledge, I run a real estate firm, an auction company, and we're entrepreneurial as well. We've been doing it for since 2008. But when you start any business, Tanner, it's you. Then it's you and your wife, or then it's you and a small team. And so as that team grew, I heard from other people that, Dave, the second you let other people help you is when you explode. That's when you expand. We did a podcast with your heating and cooling mechanical guy that said the same thing. Let other people help you. But that's hard when you like to micromanage. And so super hard. So you talked about writing out a who's in charge of what.
Accountability chart.
We haven't heard that before on the podcast. So that's a first for us. I just did this. So I don't know if it counts, but Monday.com.
Oh.
I don't know if you ever used Monday.com, but
Jace is nodding his head.
Monday.com is what I started using, and I had to write out for a farmland sale, for an auction, what is every cog in the wheel, what is every step in the process, and then who's in charge of it. And so we sat down with our team and assigned, well, this is going to be Amber, this is going to be Ann, this is David. So then we don't step on each other's toes. Then I just know that's their department. They're supposed to handle it. If they have questions, they ask. But it's super helped. Big time. And then it also has a pie graph that says who's carrying the most workload. And then you realize, like you said, that whose name's on top of every one of these. And as we started, it was my wife's name and I on the top of everything. It's like, we have to get rid of some of this. And then we have to trust the people to do it, and they might fail, but then us as the leaders did something wrong. So Monday.com is my suggestion that I'm going to interject here. And now back to Jace.
Yeah, so Monday.com, and then there's one called ClickUp, right? And ClickUp is like Monday.com, but we honestly operate our entire business on there. We have every step of every process, onboarding, fulfillment, advertising, the customer journey, like everything is done on there. All of our task management and everything. We cannot run this business and handle. You guys think about it. We're a team of 5 people managing over 300 customers, right? So like Tanner, like the last bank I was at, we had 14 people in that bank. We did not have 300 customers in Western Kansas in that small town.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So we're extremely efficient when it comes to that way, but without the accountability chart, I don't know where my holes are at.
Correct.
I don't know where I need to bring somebody in. I don't know where I'm spending too much time or spending too much energy there. And so when I don't have that, I have it's like running a tractor blind without GPS. You don't know where you're going in the business.
For me on Monday, what it was for me, especially if you're ADD, I have a million things on my mind because I'm the leader. It's a checklist. Where are we at? Where are we going? What do we need? That's what we'd say at the fire department. The other thing I'm going to relate to this. So, Jace, I was a previous firefighter. We have an incident command structure. We talked about span of control at the fire department was the term of how many people can one manager effectively manage effectively. And the answer is only like 3 to 5 and 5, being the top end of that, 3 to 7, maybe 5 being the optimal. Once we get past that, you have to delegate down into a sub-command. So everything in the fire service has been Christmas treed down from a incident command structure. You can't manage every single task.
Yeah, we did an entire episode, Jace, on delegation, and I think that's one that now we could plug right into here. Is go back and listen to that if you feel like you have a micromanaging issue. There's ways that you can learn to trust employees. There's ways that you can learn to gradually turn over assignments and authority and ability to make decisions. But it ultimately has to come back to how you communicate what your expectations are on the tasks that you're handing over, the accountability that you're given.
So, Tanner, we also talked about communication. We talk about communication all the time. So, Jace, when you talk about micromanaging and you work with your clients, how I'm thinking your father-in-law's story, your in-law's story. When you go to the feed yard to feed, one person's in charge. How do we communicate that down, or how are you teaching your clients to communicate through this micromanaging problem?
Well, yeah. So what we do internally as our team is every Monday we run what's called an L10 team meeting. Right. So L10 stands for level 10, and now the where L10 comes from is we rate the meeting at the end of it. Was it valuable on a scale of 1 to 10, right? We want to always hit a 10. Now, on that meeting, when we come together every Monday, we go over our internal team accountability chart and we ask questions. Hey, what are the roles and responsibilities for this seat? Do you have anything additional that you're needing right now? Is there anything that you're struggling with? Is there anything that you're failing at? Do you feel like we have you in the wrong seat or whatever? So we're constantly putting that in front of our team. We're teaching our customers to do the same thing. Every single Monday, sitting down with the entire team, you're getting around. These guys have, whiteboards up, or they'll put their laptop up on a TV screen or whatever. Go over the accountability chart. Talk about roles and responsibilities. What also is beneficial about this is everybody sees how their seat is contributing to the overall success of the operation. So it gets away from that's his job, or that's her job, or he should be doing that, or she should be doing that. That's not my responsibility. It gets away from that to where everybody can see, hey, we have this common mission where we want to go as a business. These are all the roles and how everybody, contributes to us getting there.
That is the best part I like about that. Tanner, I've been trying to do this with my team, and I've gotten pushback. Lots of pushback because they're like, yeah, you just created another box I got to check and more crap I got to do and another meeting I got to attend. And but I, as the leader, think, man, it's gonna bring the team together. That it's not just Dave's company; it's the whole company's company. But my team doesn't want to do it, including my wife. She thinks it's too much extra stuff. What, you got any thoughts on that real quick?
Well, what I've done and what's kind of worked for me is once you get somebody you explain the role and responsibility. I trust my team enough to where, guys, I'll let them kind of design the seat. I let them figure out how do I perform the best. And, my job is, again, if you're a micromanager, you're expecting everybody to do things a certain way. I don't approach things that way. I approach from the viewpoint of, hey, you're on my team. How can I arm you with every asset, every resource you will need to do the best job that you can inside of the seat?
Perfect.
Yeah, giving the power, giving the resources, giving the power. So let's move on to number 2. That was number 1. Number 2, you had labeled as be centralized. What do you mean?
So it kind of tail spins off of the whole micromanaging this accountability chart, because again, as you guys were just talking about, like with the fire station, right? There's a tree level down, right? There's one person at the top, and then it all trickles down from there and spreads out. Versus when you think about a majority of farmers or ranchers today, everybody, I don't know, you guys hear it as much as I do. I can't find good help. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just this
all the time.
common thing. Yeah, everywhere. Right. So the thing is, though, is that a lot of these guys, they're not building their operations to run without them. They're building their operations to run with them. That's a problem because every decision, every question, everything has to go through one central person. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if my phone is blowing up 30 times a day with the same questions over and over and over again, as a business owner, I'm going to get pretty annoyed pretty fast, right? But again, that's like our members before they come in, that's just the cycle. They've just been on this hamster wheel doing that for years and never figuring out the systems and the processes to implement to give their team the resources they need to be able to do their job without having to ask the boss questions.
Tanner, I think this is also going to go to succession planning. And here's why I say that. I like entrepreneurial books, and I was reading a book the other day that said every business is trying to be sold. Like, what? Every business is trying to be sold. And so when you think about it, the context of the chapter is, okay, Whitaker Marketing Group, David Whitaker, my business. Without David Whitaker, can Whitaker Marketing Group operate? When it can self-sustain and I can go on vacation to Tahiti for a month and not worry about the business wheels still moving, that's when you have a sellable product. Until that point, you have a one-person managed company that it needs David Whitaker, and without it, when you go to sell it, and of course I want to retire, it's worth nothing because it's got your name on it. Not that it can't have your name on it and you can't sell the company. What they're saying is you need a repeatable process, just like McDonald's, that the dumbest kid in the factory can do over and over again. So you're selling the process. You're not selling the name.
Yeah, I'm glad that you shared that because that's not where my brain was going. I get that. I like that a lot because I have in my in-laws family farm to where I know that's a common frustration with some of the help that they get because of that exact same excuse. It's hard to find good help, so they hire what's available, and they will get 20 calls before lunch about resetting the GPS, or what do I need to do after I just refilled the planter with seed, or what field am I going to next, to where it's partially on them for the type of person they hired, the quality of training they provided that person, and the resources that they're giving them.
I'm going to say ownership too. The people, if you can hire them and they're part of the company, so they're part of the team, as Jace said earlier, you don't work for me, you are, and mine is Whitaker Marketing Group. We're a group of people that all work together. All right. Well, if we all work together, let's say you don't have a son or daughter, or let's say your son or daughter went into banking and they're not going to come over, take over the farm. How do we build people to do it as good as I would? They have to have ownership. The reason I do it as good as I do is because I own the company. My name's on the line. I need them to feel like their name's on the line.
So what advice are you giving to your legacy farmers to really push the idea of becoming decentralized to the 9th degree?
Yeah, so that kind of leads us into our third topic here, which is have zero training in place. right? So now when I go through and fill out my accountability chart and I have all these different roles, right? And then within all those roles, I have all the responsibilities of those roles, right? So you just talked about resetting the GPS. How difficult is it for a farmer in modern day to take their phone, record a video of them resetting the GPS, and then creating some type of storage like a Google Drive so that their team can jump in there right quick and go find a video, watch it right quick. That way they don't have to bug the owner of the business. Like, it's just simple things like that that a lot of our members are not thinking through. Like, hey, how can I really systemize this? I don't want the business to run with me. I want to build this business to run without me.
That was like a light bulb. I don't know if I just immediately went to look outside and spaced off for a moment when you mentioned the video resource. I mean, how
why would
easy,
you not?
How easy is that to do? Because you're going to have to go there to show them and do it anyway. Just one of those times, pull your phone out and record it. I'm even thinking about stuff on the podcast here, Dave. You know, when we pull out all these cords and plug them into the soundboard and what goes in what order. Yeah, that's something that somebody else could be doing.
That's why McDonald's was successful. They didn't sell a cheeseburger. They sold a repeatable process that the dumbest kid in the factory could do over and over again. And that is why a franchise exists, Tanner. How many farmers do that? I don't know a single farmer that says, this is how I want you to fix fence. This is how you do it. Or this is how I want you to feed cows. And this is the ration I want you to mix. And then they forget and call them on the phone and text them.
I have gone to customers and been able to help, or I've even stepped into a new machine for my in-laws or for my dad that I hadn't ran before. And they all say, just call me when you get there and I'll walk you through it. Well, that just killed the time for two people.
Yep.
Where if they could text me the video or send me whatever it is, here, when you get there, watch this video and it'll start up that hay mower for you. No problem.
I know a ton of tech companies that do this, and I've never thought about it in agriculture.
Well, there you go. New business.
Huh.
Well, you guys even think about, like, so we have our own software, right? So we go over accountability chart. We get all of our members' numbers are in there. We're helping them simplify and organize all that stuff in there. By the way, guys, on our community boardroom call, like, we openly, I'll share my screen on Zoom. We openly share everybody's accountability charts. We openly talk through finances and numbers. We're literally sharing financials of the members across the country there. But now, what's beneficial about that? You guys think about a lot of softwares with that farmers could potentially use. A lot of the softwares that they may be absolute great softwares and they never get used. And the reason is because the training resources and the ability to step out and like really train somebody and help them understand how to use the resource, it's not there. People don't think in that way. So like with our software, our team and why we interview everybody before they come in and we don't allow a ton of people in is because we dedicate and spend time with each one of our members to train them how to use this valuable resource that we've created.
So what are you doing with, I find myself saying this sometimes, hey, I didn't sign up for your product to go to YouTube University. I'll sign up for a new Monday.com and then they have, 1,400 training videos and here's how you do it. Like I bought the software because I want the service and I want to get in. I got to assume there's an age demographic to when we are used to going to YouTube University and when we're not.
Yeah. So like with ours, for example, guys, we have our entire network and we have accounts set up for everybody, but we have live chat 24/7 all day long. So I can literally pull up my phone, pull up our chat group right here, and then there's just a list of hundreds and hundreds of people. All of our chat groups are on there that all of our members are in. So whenever our members have a question or anything like that, they jump out, they reach out on here. We jump on a call with them live on Zoom and walk them through it. But then even on our kickoff calls with all of our members, we're helping them get all their numbers inputted in there. We're helping them design their accountability chart. We're helping them step by step through the process because I want to make an impact, but two, I want them to really use the stuff that we're providing them.
So maybe I'm misinterpreting this. What is zero training? Are you giving your employees zero training?
No, that's what kills it.
That's what kills it.
That's one of your 5 things. That's what ruins the family farm is when you provide zero training.
I think the training is exactly what you said. Hey, when you get there, I'll talk you through it. Give me a call. That's got to be how 90% of our farmers are doing it.
Here's how much further I take this is then when that person dies, it dies. Everybody reflects. How many Twitter posts do you see? I mean, I know I took this really deep and dark right now, but how many Twitter posts do you see that says, gosh, 7-year anniversary since my dad died. The man is a wealth of knowledge. I miss going to him with questions. Grandpa died, my idol, the person that I always went to with all these issues is, if that's the way we're training everybody, the person with the most experience, that experience dies with them.
what about mistakes are the best training? So if I had a lieutenant at the fire station. He'd just wait for you to do it wrong. And then when you did, he felt you'd remember it more because you screwed up. And then once you got your butt chewed, then you'd remember it because you were driving the grain cart too fast and we spilled the grain and now dad's chewing your butt. Is there a point to
how costly of a mistake?
Learning by fire, or do we remember it more for the future? Or is it, I watch YouTube video, now I'm an expert grain cart operator?
Yeah, I'll say that there's value to that. The problem is though, is that not every generation has to learn by fire. Right. If I could go back and ask my granddad 100 different questions around what it was like to start his business and build it from nothing as the first generation to do it, that'd be an extremely valuable resource to me. Right now, am I still going to make inevitable mistakes in today's environment? Yeah, the environment's changed, the market's changed. I'm going to make mistakes that he could have never made just because the overall market factors are completely different. So I'm still going to have the learning by fire, right? But I still want to take those lessons from his generation and what he learned growing up, so I don't make the same mistakes.
Hence the reason there is Farm4Profit podcast.
And
there you go.
This is exactly. We want everybody's mistakes. Everybody's good. They're bad. Yep. They're ugly. And if you don't have Grandpa, you got Farm4Profit podcast.
So, Jace, I put down a note when I was making the outline that was a simple question of, is the zero training concept of busting that, is that just for employees?
No, I think it's for, like, guys, I want to replace my role too. Because what do we ultimately want long term? Well, when I want to retire, a lot of members and a lot of family farms, when they do retire, they can either live off the income from the farm, from their farm ground, which we all know what rent is and everything like that. I mean, rent up in your guys' neck of the woods is a heck of a lot more than what it is down here.
Sure.
But for a majority of people in today's environment, they cannot live. They have to own a ton of acres in order to be able to generate an actual livable income off that. So they really have two options, right? They either try to survive and struggle off that low income, or they can start selling assets to the kids, which none of them want to do either, because we don't really want to pass stuff on.
So in your training, do you have, Tanner, I'm taking it even deeper here. When we talk about zero training, okay, we know we need to train the person. That's a pitfall. How do we hire the right person that's trainable? So in your program, are you helping clients find the great person? I'm thinking of my office manager. We hired 3 before we got greatness. And we tried to train all 3. So we wasted 3 times worth of, we didn't have videos. So we had 3 times worth of training somebody until we got there. What's your thoughts there?
So that leads us into number 4, right, that we're talking about here. So no mission statement or core values. 4th way to really sink your family farm operation. Because how many farmers, Tanner, that or customers that you work with have actually went through, and you can go through and see what their mission statement or core values are for their operation?
Next to none. I would say out of my entire portfolio, I would have 2 agricultural companies. Now, a lot of corporations, a lot of businesses do and go through that process. But ag related, only 2.
Ag related. I've hardly ever known any. And so that kind of leads us into there, right? We help all of our members design this stuff. And yes, this is seen as the unimportant work to the majority of farmers and ranchers. It just seem like, why would I go waste my time with that? I need to be out in the field, or I need to be checking fence or cattle or whatever. It's seen as, wasteful work. And the reality is, like Legacy Farmer, for example, there's a mission behind Legacy Farmer. Every person on my team has come from my program. I have people reaching out every couple of weeks asking if we have any positions, strictly because of the mission that Legacy Farmer is. They want to be part of the movement, right? It's not just about money. It's bigger than themselves, right? And so, like one of our members last week, we were talking about on the community boardroom call. He goes, well, my employees, they're just here for the money. I said, okay, that's it. I get where you're coming from there. I said, how can you create an environment and a culture inside of your business to where they are there for a heck of a lot more than just the money, but because of what you are all trying to accomplish, because of the core values, because of the people that they work with, because of just the mission statement that they're committing to. It's got to be more than the money.
Yeah, and that's, again, another way to differentiate yourself, like you were leading into, on how you attract high-quality talent to make the training process a lot easier. And that's why it's important. I mean, every bank has a mission statement and a vision statement, and they all say the same freaking thing because we all just sell money. I mean, we're taking money from one person, lending it out to another person, strategically hoping it comes back so we can all make money in the end. And it's all about community, and it's all about profitability, and it's all about shareholder respect and best place to work. The same thing can be done for a farm. Dave, I think we're going to have to dive into a whole-on episode about how you do this, how you put together a mission statement, a vision statement, a strategic plan. I think we should do a whole show on that.
We sure could. I'm thinking of the ones I've participated in and in a couple of the organizations I've been in, but we revisit the mission statements of what the members of PASS have created, and it's a ever-changing evolution that, as we were maybe not the same organization we were back in 1940. So I bet it moves. So on to the next is...
I don't know. Did you have anything else to add on that, Jace?
No. So... one thing that I'll say there, Dave, and you mentioned it earlier, right? Basically create your business like you're going to sell it one day, even though we're never going to sell it or whatever, right? The same thing goes there, right? Let's say, and I explain this and share it in this way to my members all the time, guys, when we're putting your numbers together and everything, treat your business like somebody's going to come and buy it. They're going to come invest in it. You just gave them financials. What are they going to say about that? What is it going to say to them? Now, again, if I'm on the other side of that and I'm going to invest in a business, what's the first things I'm going to look at? I'm going to look at numbers for sure, but then I'm going to dive deeper than that because we all know that sustainable businesses that last, it's not just about money. It's about the team underneath. It's about the core mission. It's about the values of that company and where they're pushing and why they're doing what they're doing. That's what drives the profits forward. So that's what I'm saying too, just to kind of piggyback off of what you mentioned earlier. There's just, treat your business like, one day I'm going to sell it. Okay. What information do I need to have in place?
That's right. So let's move into the fifth and final one. And you've got it labeled here as be selfish. Now that seems counterproductive a little bit. So what does that mean?
So there's a concept that I heard a few years ago, and it's the difference between being selfish, right? Acting selfish versus acting out of self-interest, right? When you are a person that's being selfish, you are acting solely in the benefit of you and you alone. When I'm acting out of self-interest, it means I'm acting out of the benefit of everybody else around me so that I can also meet my goals, right? So with this right here, a lot of members, they're focused on their goals, right? We have some members that have, a team of 30 people, and the mission statement is built around, guess what? The family's goals, the family that owns the farm operation goals. And I'm like, guys, okay, that's great. How are you ever going to build out a loyal team? Because all of our customers, they want loyal team members, people that'll stick with them through thick and thin, right? How are you ever going to build out a loyal team when your mission statement is all about the family and not your team, right? So the reason I even brought that up on the podcast is because, or on the video that you guys watched, is because a lot of our members, they're so focused, or we're so focused on themselves, and that's going to be the one thing that keeps you from getting actually everything you want. Versus if I focus on the results that my team gets, that if I focus on providing them with every resource they need to do their job the absolute best they can, if I focus on giving them the financial possibilities here as well so that they can build wealth for their family or the lifestyle that they want, if I'm focusing on helping them get what they want, what will they in turn do for me? Help me get what I want.
Right.
Same thing with our customers. If we focus heavily on providing and just outdoing when it comes to customer service across the board and just driving massive value with our 300 plus customers, and I really help them and our team really helps them, then what's going to happen to my team and to my goals? They're going to help them achieve those as well.
Right. I like that. And it's so hard, Dave. The way I wrote our outline is we have to remember these are the 5 things that you can do to ruin your family farm. So being selfish isn't a good thing. You have to be able to involve the entire team when you put together your goals, your mission statement, your values, the way you live every single one of your life. So what happens, Jace, if we can't not do all of this list?
Most people, here's the reality, and this is what we tell people coming into our program, right? We live in a, what do you want to call it? Quick reaction world, or quick reward type world, right? We want things, we want it now, right? The thing that we tell the members coming into our program, like our program's a year-long program, and we tell them very clearly when they come in, hey, like you want big changes, and you want them to happen, this is going to take time, right? So like even with these 5 things, there's, I mean, five key things here. There's a mountain of work with this for a lot of our members,
right.
And not just like physical work, like having to go out and like really think through, but also I talked about it earlier, overcoming the identity, overcoming the old stories as to why I don't do this or why I shouldn't do this or whatever. There's a personal and a business battle here as far as to what goes on. So, to anybody that's struggling with it, be persistent. I mean, how bad do you really want your end target? How bad do you want your time back to be able to spend with your family or the profits that you want for your business or whatever, right? You have to attach it to that. Farmers and ranchers, it's kind of interesting. They get so stuck in their emotions wrapped up in one day. It's kind of funny because every one of them is like, man, I feel like this year could break me. Oh, really? You said that the past 20 years too. Like literally every year, the past 20 years, you've said the same thing, right? We get so caught up in the emotions versus, hey, what's the long-term outlook here? What do we really want to build? And are we heading in that direction?
Yeah, we've had a lot of great guests. Zoe Kent was one that said it all works out in the end. You can't get caught up in the high emotion, the high stress of every single day. There's key things to pull out of it, but you can't let that control everything that you're doing. So one last question before we summarize and wrap up here. When you're working with 300 different clients, what sticks out to you out of those that are the top performers of that group? What are they doing differently?
They know their numbers and they make decisions based on facts, not emotions.
Run it like a business.
Run it like a business.
Run it like a business. I mean, honestly, like some of them, they're taking, I get it. They inherited 3rd, 4th generation grounds. The business owners, if it doesn't make financial sense, they're going to let go of it immediately. They're not going to think about it. Hey, it doesn't make financial sense. We're going to let go of it. And then we're going to go capture this other opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So on your website, I'm looking at your website for listeners, legacyfarmer.org, O-R-G, and I see pictures of all young people. So you got all kinds of young people on the front. Is this just something for folks that are trying to be, new, taking over a farm, or is this something that I'm guessing you're working with multi-generations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we, most of the members inside of our group are aged 25 to up to 60 right now. The reason you see a lot of young people there is because our program is all about change, right? And making changes and wanting to adapt and wanting to do things differently. And the reality is, the older generation, a lot of them are going to be stuck in their ways, and that's okay. I'm not saying that's bad, right, or wrong. What I'm saying is that our message is about attracting people that really want to adapt and make some changes and make some drastic ones.
Gotcha. So what programs do you have to offer? Give us your little plug here of what legacyfarmer.org is your business and helping people continue that legacy. What programs? Say I'm interested. Now what?
Yep. Yeah. So go on your computer there. Go to that programs page.
Yep.
Right there at the top, and then scroll down, and you'll see our 9-step process that we take every single person through. And the first one it starts with is farmer metrics. And we go through and help everybody get their numbers organized, simplified, and detailed to where they have one sound number that they're always going back to make every financial decision off of. And then we move into cash flow statement and analysis, and then we move into entity structure and design, because it's kind of crazy. And Tanner, you've probably seen this 100 times, right? Farmers running 4 different sources of income through a personal checking account. And there's a reason they have no idea where they're making money or losing money or what's profitable or not profitable. So we go through each step in that process there. We go through field metrics. Then number 5, what was number 5? Oh, team accountability chart, right? And then after that, we break into monthly bookkeeping, tax planning, tax prep, and then legacy planning for step 9.
Gotcha.
But then, like I said, that's just the process, as you mentioned, right? Then you scroll down and you have the entire community stuff there, the training program, the call recordings, like everything we do with our community on a day-to-day basis.
I love it. Well, I'm going to do my best to summarize here, but we ask every guest the same question, and you can ponder it while we summarize. What is the best advice that you have ever been given? So, listeners, we were here. We had Jace Young with legacyfarmer.org talking about 5 ways that you could ruin your family farm. 5 things that we don't want to do. Normally, we're here telling you what you should do or could do. These are things to avoid. So we first started in, the number 1 was micromanaging. And I wrote so many notes down here that it was definitely important. So if you missed that part or you glazed over that part, go back to the first item that we discussed today. Ultimately, create accountability. Look at what authority is being concentrated in a certain area. Do what you can to delegate. Maybe look at the resources that we talked about. I think it was Monday.com and ClickUp. But then another cool way that we mentioned is a level 10 meeting that Jace put together is have a meeting, have it consistently scheduled, but then rate it at the end of the meeting. And the reason it's called level 10 is you want it to be a 10 rated meeting every time. If not, you need to make changes to make that meeting not a waste of people's time. Second one was be centralized. We want to get away from that. We want to be able to build our farm or our business to run without us. One of the good aha moments that we had was create video resources. Don't make it to where they have to rely on calling you to make decisions. Provide ways for your team to work without you there. Number 3 was no training or zero training. And this went across the board. So train up your employees, your family members, the people that you're working with, yourself. Make sure that they have the adequate resources to do the job. And I want to take it one step further, Jace. I just kind of thought of this is you might even be able to train the vendors that you work with. Because if they know the best time of day or week or way to get a hold of you, way to communicate, deliver product that fits your operation, that fits your goals, you're no longer wasting your time with a salesperson or an advisory team because you're all working in unison together. No mission statement or not identifying your core values. So we're going to dedicate an entire show to doing that on how you can build and get that beginning of a business plan put together. But you need to make sure that it includes the entire team. If you want to work with a team, it needs to be something everybody can look at and work on together. And the last one is be selfish. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that what we're able to achieve and drive and direct everybody around us to do is a way to help everyone achieve their goals and get to the finish line and let it be within your best self-interest. So accomplishing your goals while helping other people accomplish theirs. So that's what I've got for a summary, Jace. What is some of the best advice you've ever been given?
So it comes from a book and a video I was watching by a guy by the name of Keith Cunningham, big $100 million real estate investor, lost it all back in the 80s or 90s, and anyways had to rebuild it from nothing. In his book and in that video I was watching, he said, and this has always stuck with me, he said 99% of success is found in learning what not to do. That it's not from people's wins that we'll actually learn what we should be doing ourselves. It's from their losses that can really actually save us long term. That's kind of the approach that we take on all of our community boardroom calls. Everybody is open and willing to share what's not working so that others can not make the same mistakes.
We can do what's not working in A. And everybody can say what their mistakes are.
I don't think you're wrong, but for Jace to create an environment to where sharing your mistake is not applauded, but it's appreciated.
Yep.
You know, we're not embarrassing you. We're learning from you and should say thank you at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. You know, Mike Burkhart, one of our podcast listeners, just posted something out there, and I'm going to get it wrong, but it was something like, if you can't go broke if you're profitable. I thought, okay, what? You can't go broke if you're making money. He was trying to make a decision on when to buy or sell. Do you hold out for $8 corn, or if you have $7 corn, do you sell? If you're making profit and $7 corn makes profit, you can't go broke if you sell at that rate. So don't wait for the 8.
But to Jace's point, and he knows where I'm coming from, is you have to know though that your analysis of the costs are accurate.
That's right. That's right.
Majority of them don't have that stuff put together, which is why we focus pretty heavily on that.
Well, it looks like you got a heck of a program here. I just shared it out there for my world to check out. So, boy, I sure appreciate you and enjoyed this one, being on this podcast with you.
Do you got a challenge for our listeners before we send them off?
Man, I hadn't even thought about that. I guess I would challenge you to do exactly what it says that none of you listeners can see. Maybe we'll screenshot it in the background of Jace. And it's a big GR like the periodic table elements. And it's a big GR that looks like a periodic element. And it stands for greatness. So there's a quote.
There's a quote underneath it. It says, "Greatness is not a journey; it's a destination that never ends."
There you go.
Is that what you're
I was so heading there, right there. Say it again. Say it again.
So it says, "Greatness is not a destination; it's a journey that never ends."
There you go. Never ending. Just like the long anticipated every Monday and Thursday release of the Farm for Profit podcast, it'll never stop.
See, I thought it was great minds think alike.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I like all that. Jace, we appreciate you taking your time, hanging out with us. This should be something we do here on a fairly regular basis. I think a lot of our audiences overlap. I think a lot of your mentality and your mission is something that our listeners could continue to find value from. So appreciate you answering the Facebook message and connecting. It's been a real blessing.
Yeah, guys, I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this and look forward to doing it again in the future.
Absolutely. And listeners, until next time, have a good one.
Remember, if you aren't farming for profit, you won't be farming for long.